Batman Dark Patterns issue 4. Dan Watters writing with Hayden Sherman on the art. So this is the start of a new arc, actually, because the first arc was just a 3-issue number. And then this one is called The Voice of the Tower. And it's Batman, but Dread, where he's in an apartment building. And it's like, so the book starts with a police officer has been thrown out of this apartment building to his death. And
hung up like a puppet from what Nightmare on Elm Street is that? Is that 3?
That's 3, yeah.
Okay, yeah. After being hung up like a marionette and then cut down.
Yeah, so he falls to his death, and it's like, okay, this apartment building's meant to be taken down, but some of the residents don't like. A lot of them don't want to leave, but a few of them are dangerous, and they are now like they kidnapped 2 cops. They've killed one, and the other one might be alive, still inside the building. And Batman's like, okay, there's a window open on the 5th floor. I'm going to get in there. So he does. He does a whole jump and a grapple and gets in the building. And they do this whole thing where they treat this building like it's super dangerous. And there's a great 2-page layout where it's like really confusing and like disorientating. And the idea is that Batman's hearing some punks talk about the fact that they've kidnapped a cop and that she's up somewhere. But when Batman tries to like sort of jump out and scare them, it doesn't work because they're not there. And it turns out they're actually a floor above, and they yell down and say, hey, you don't know how this place works. And for a second I thought, wait, are they doing some weird supernatural like thing with this building? But it turns out like, one of the scared neighbors just kind of opens their door a little bit and tells Batman, oh, the acoustics of this place are really weird. Like, it's hard to tell where sound's coming from. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So it's not supernatural. It's just this idea that the sound's bouncing around and it makes it really difficult to get your bearings and know where things are coming from. And it's like, okay. And it's interesting for multiple reasons, which we'll get to. But yeah, so we introduced like one of the main villains here, who is this guy who lives here. Some psychotic criminal who has the policewoman like strung up next to the window, and she's gagged, but she's also fallen asleep. But he starts complaining that she's making noises, and like the wife, I guess, is like, no, I think she's asleep, but I don't think you're hearing anything. And then he gets mad and is like, oh, you're calling me crazy, you're disrespecting me in my own house. And he goes to beat her up, but then the cronies come in and say, hey, Batman's here. And this is where it reveals that Scarface is sitting on the floor, right? And he's like, I'm not happy, not one git. So we got this like running thing where he keeps saying G instead of B. For a lot of his words. So Batman's looking around. He phones that like shady coroner to try and find out.
Yeah, the dude that's huffing formaldehyde.
Yeah, he's not exactly sober, but he's able to deduce though. They can't really say exactly what floor that the cop fell out of, but they can say that it must have been above floor 5 because he seemed to bounce on impact, which would suggest a higher landing or higher.
I love the amount of human body research that Waters is doing, because between the pain guy, and knowing that if you're dropped out of 5, there's not much different for terminal velocity on the human body. Because
as he says, there's not much difference. I mean, assuming this is correct, I don't know if it is, but like the injuries in the human body from falling from 30 feet and from a plane are basically the same.
Same, right?
Yeah.
But how do you interact with the ground changes, and the cop bounced, and so there was a bunch of abrasions from that. So we can tell it was over 5 floors, and I was just like, Waters, I want to see your search history, bud.
so Batman's
just
like, okay,
human body bounce.
I have to go up. I have to go up and find. And sure enough, like this guy standing with Scarface, and immediately Batman's like, Wesker. And I always forget that Wesker's first name is Albert, which is really weird because the Resident Evil character's called Albert Wesker, and it always messes me up.
Holy crap! Do you think that influenced the game developers or no?
I mean, there's nothing like remotely comparable between them, so I don't think so. But it's just a weird coincidence. But anyway, so Batman's like, wait, you're not Wesker, and he just like crushes Scarface's head, just smashes it into the ground, and like holds the other guy up. And what I really liked about this because obviously, like, okay, so normally you've got Wesker, it's actually him that's the villain, right? He's got a split personality. He speaks through the doll, and that's like the bad side. It's kind of like a Two-Face, but with like a bit of a gimmick to like have the other personality come out. And you still hear the voice, like the voice without a speech bubble, kind of like, Gatman, you think you can stop me again by destroying my Gody? Right? And he's doing all this thing. And you sort of like realize that, oh, this is the other way that the acoustics of this building are coming into play, is that Scarface's voice is kind of bouncing around, like it's just coming away from, wherever. And whoever really is voicing Scarface, and it could be Wesker, like Wesker could be in the building somewhere, but because the audio is bouncing around with the acoustics, and we start to see like people around the building are putting on Scarface masks. Basically, like Scarface is like enlisted a lot of the people who live in this building to become his soldiers. So we get like civilians from the building throwing couches and shooting down out at the police on the outside. And we see that Scarface has decided that he's got a new body. This building is his new body. And like the outside of the building has like a scar and two eyes like sort of drawn on the outside of it. So this building is the new Scarface, and all the people inside are all wearing these wooden Scarface masks.
And where the mouth of the building is, there's a couch sticking out like a cigar.
That's right, yeah. And there's two balconies that kind of make eyebrows.
Yeah. So wait, what is the significance of him swapping the G with a B? Or a B with the G?
It's not significant. I think they're just going for that like sort of old gangster speak kind of thing, where, it's just a quirk to sort of give him a distinct voice.
I mean, yeah, that's fine by me. Like I didn't know if there was a significance, because if I like any other Scarface story I've read, that's not a thing in Scarface's dialogue.
It's not surprised me, so I think I've at least seen it somewhere. But I mean, it's not an always thing by any means.
Yeah. This book, I know it's called Dark Patterns, and I'm sure there's a reason for it, but I feel like this is the Black Case book kind of vibe, like series that I kind of always wanted, because they're all these super weird and non-typical Batman stories, right? Because like when this started, you said Dread, I immediately thought of The Raid. Right, where Batman's going into this hostile building. He's gonna have to work his way up to the top. Oh, but how does this make it different? Oh, Scarface is now possessing the building. Much like he possesses Wesker, and how that works, right? So again, not that it's necessarily supernatural, but it's definitely not a typical ventriloquist story.
No, this is a really interesting way of like updating and doing something different with that. This is a really cool idea. Like this is one of these things where, unlike that Aquaman book, like every single thing it revealed about what the premise is, I was like, oh, this is good. Oh, this is a good idea. Yeah, this is great stuff. Super into it all the way through. I think it is like just that idea of working up the building. Whatever movie you want to compare it to, it's such a simple idea for an action story that it makes so much sense. But then you've got the creepy aspect to this. And the idea of the voice is coming from somewhere in the building, but you don't know where. So presumably, at the end of this arc, however many issues it is, I could see it just being 3 again.
I feel like that's what it's going to be. I feel these are going to be like three issue arcs that play out like this.
Yeah, but to be fair, the Wound Man story was perfectly paced and was the perfect length for what it was. I suspect that I'm trusting Waters to do it again here, and I love how conceptually I was into this, and just like you said, like even just talking about where the body fell from and the weird sort of like almost macabre details that were coming out about like, oh, it bounced, so it must have came from this, like above this floor. The idea that, because for a little bit I thought, oh, maybe this like crazy abusive husband character is kind of like went crazy and now he thinks he's Scarface, and that's rather than Wesker. But then when the voice kind of kept coming throughout the building, I thought, oh no. It's coming from somewhere else. So I'm expecting Wesker to be in here somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like this is his gang now.
Yeah,
right?
talking through the vents or something, and like the voice is spreading, and that's how he's influenced all these other people as well.
Right. But it also feels like when Bruce smashed Scarface, he inhabited the building. So it also gives it that creepy vibe as well. Right, where now instead of having the Wesker having the doll or the dummy to come through, it's going to be the entire building.
Yeah, I don't think it's literally a case of the smashing of the doll triggered something. I think it's a case of like he'd already done all this, and then it's just sort of like revealed to us that the doll was like The doll's almost not relevant anymore because he's already set all this up. He's already got his new doll.
Just the building with the eyes. It's such a hilarious and also creepy image, you know?
Yeah, and to be fair, I can't think of many great Scarface stories, and this is already ranking up there for me. Yeah. So I'm excited for this. I think this is arguably the best Batman book right now.
I'm thoroughly enjoying Batman and Robin for what it is right now.
As am I, and I'm enjoying Detective a lot.
Yes,
but I think I might like this the most right now.
Yeah, it'd be a toss up between Batman and Robin and this for me, for sure. But yeah, it's good all the way around. But what I like here that Waters is doing is he's telling such different stories.
Yeah,
you know.
Well, I like that they're not like. I think one of the things that Batman and Detective like fall into, it's the same problem the movies fall into, is that every story has to be the biggest epic thing that they can think of. And I think I really appreciate that these feel like episodes of a good TV show where it's just a really cool concept that lasts 3 or 4 issues and it just works, and it's well thought out with good ideas. And it's, you know, we had a new villain in the first arc. This is a really cool way of doing an old villain with this arc. I think this is nailing something that the other Bat books, well, very good in a lot of ways, in their own ways. This feels like it's doing something that feels fresh because so many of the other ones feel like they have to do these bigger things all the time.
Yeah. So, they're just letting Waters play in his own sandbox. And I feel like that's when he's at his best. Because even like in that Arkham book, you know, he was just kind of doing his own thing.
But I think this is way better than that.
No, but that's what I'm saying is they're just leaving him alone, and he's not feeling he has to tell these big stories. He's telling the story he exactly wants to tell, and that happens to be a Scarface Tower. You know, because then on the last page you get them all wearing those Scarface masks, pointing guns at Batman. You know, and just there's the idea of this is Scarface's gang, and you know he has turned the tower into his own thing. You know, a lot of fun. It kind of goes into the whole idea that Arkham was all across Gotham, you know. So again, I feel like these are hallmarks of Waters' storytelling, and it's coming out, and let's let him play in the sandbox.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even think it has to be a sandbox, because I feel like this is, you know, it feels like another ongoing Batman book. I mean, I guess the one thing is that his outfit's a little bit more old school, so I guess technically this might be set a little bit in the past, but it really, like, there's nothing about it that feels like, oh, this has to be, like, I mean, I guess, okay, Gordon is actually serving as commissioner, so that officially says it's not in the current part of mainline DCU. But
I thought we established that in the first issue, Dark Patterns. It's kind of like year 2. It's before. I think you're right. Robin.
Yeah, I think I've forgotten that they said that. You're right, but I'm into this. Like this has been, because I like some of that other stuff that he did, but I really think that his Nightwing and this. How, like, okay, I think I'm a Dan Waters convert. I don't think I was completely buying in yet until these last 2 books, but consider me on board. So, and you know, we without even talking about Sherman's art too much as of yet. It's pretty good. Like I think that, you know, occasionally there's like a face that I don't love, right? It does some weird things. There's one page towards the end where Gordon's kind of looking up as the civilians are doing stuff. And it's just got kind of a weird perspective to it that doesn't quite work for me. But I think where Sherman's art really works is in the sequencing and sort of the layouts, the way it kind of has the action flow, and even just simple things like Batman rushing up the stairs before he sees the Scarface dummy. It's just perfectly paced. So it's one of these things where the line work isn't completely to my taste all the time, but I think the actual sequential comic book storytelling is extremely good, and I think the coloring's very good and like builds like a solid, consistent like atmosphere throughout.
Yeah, so there's that page early on after he goes through the door and has all the writing on it, right? And just the way that Sherman draws it is completely disorienting. Like you can't really tell which way is meant to be up. And I feel that then that adds to the chaotic vibe of Batman trying to make his way through this building with all the different sounds, and he can't tell where they're coming from because of the acoustics and whatnot.
Yeah, because that page, you know, you see all these different staircases, and you see like some small panels of like, oh, there's a girl playing with a ball somewhere, there's a mouse somewhere else, whatever. I think what I liked about this page is that obviously it set up this idea that it's this new labyrinth that he doesn't really know very well, even though it's an apartment building. It should be pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But I think what it did though is it told me that this building is going to be like a main character in this book. It kind of made the building feel important by giving it this page to just say, here's the building and here's how important it is, by giving it a 2-page layout where we kind of sell the idea that it's going to be this big, you know, feature of this, right? It made it feel like, oh, this isn't just a random location that's taking place in this issue. This is the setting that we're going to have the entire story in. It's kind of like, you know, in like a movie, right, where you make an effort at the start of Die Hard to do just a slow shot panning up, or not panning, you don't pan up, sorry. That I always pick,
you tilt up.
You tilt up. I always pull people up for that. I feel shame for saying that. But you do the shot tilting up the building to sort of emphasize the height, or you do a shot from the distance to show it in the skyline to make it feel like, hey, this is kind of a character in the movie almost, is this. I feel like that's what this page is doing. It's saying, hey, this building is like a big part of this premise. And sure enough, by the end, it's literally Scarface as the building. So, you know, good stuff. Good stuff.
That made me laugh like a maniac when I turned that page. And the building is now complete with a cigar couch. Oh, so good. The other panel, or the other page that made me give away is right after Bruce smashes the Scarface dummy, the next page, the way that the panels are drawn, it makes a new Scarface face, right? The top 2 panels make the hat. Then there's 2 round panels that make the eyes. You know, as it goes through, the panels end up making a new face in it. And I think that's some really, really fun work here.
Yeah, no, it's very, very good stuff. Like I said, the layouts and the pacing of the scenes is really, really good. All right, what are you giving Batman Dark Patterns?
I'm going to give this an 8.5.
I gotta go 9. Loved it.